Hey, what's going on? Nick Unsworth here, and I'm very excited for you because we are going to have a session here today with the one and only Chris Ducker. So Ducker is all about virtual freedom, and this guy, his entire business model is all about creating leverage online, creating leverage with outsourced virtual assistants, and he's got multiple businesses. This guy lives a life of just luxury, and it's just so cool. So he's got a huge heart. He's a very awesome entrepreneur, and he's going to break down how to brand yourself and build a business of you with leverage, and how you can do that hiring virtual assistants and all kinds of cool stuff. So this is Chris Ducker coming up.
Hey, what's going on? Nick Unsworth here, and I'm a kick-ass business coach, and I'm on an absolute mission to help you find your purpose in life, to help you love what you do for work every single day, to help you be the rock star that you are meant to be, to make more money than you ever thought was possible, and to have more time freedom so you can actually enjoy the life that you're living. I'm here to help you set your life on fire.
Hey, what's up everybody? It's Chris here from chrisducker.com, and thank you very, very much for tuning in today for this short presentation on the business of you and why it's so important for us all as entrepreneurs to embrace that influencer, that leader that is lurking inside of us, and unleash it onto the world to build your audience and obviously to build your business at the same time. Now, for those of you who don't know maybe of me before, I blog and podcast over at chrisducker.com. I run several businesses in the Philippines. I have 3 different businesses over in the Philippines, and I have lived in the Philippines for 14 years, and it was actually maybe just 4.5 to 5 years or so ago that I actually started blogging in the first place. I'm very much a brick and mortar type of business owner up until the beginning of 2010. But the moment I found blogging and online content creation, I knew that I just had to grab a hold of that mantle and run with it at 180 miles an hour. And that's exactly what I've done. I podcast. I have the New Business podcast, amongst others, which is my main focus. And in April this year, my first traditionally published book, Virtual Freedom, came out and became a 4-time #1 bestseller on Amazon in several different business categories. Now, I don't say all these things to kind of gloat or boast in any way, but I say it as a reminder in terms of what's possible once you embrace that leader inside of you and you start building your personal brand. What's truly possible. And I believe that none of these things would have come about. All the opportunities that I've had over the last 4 or 5 years online, both online actually as well as offline in regards to a speaking career developing and everything else that's come my way, nothing would have happened if I hadn't have made a very conscious decision to go ahead and actually build my brand online. But here's the thing, it's tough to be original online nowadays. I mean, if you think about it logically, and this was the struggle that I had when I first started sort of really focusing in on building my brand, my issue was, well, how am I going to be original? Everybody that's out there already has already got a bit of a head start on me, regardless of what industry I'm going to be focusing in on, regardless of what audience I'm going to be focusing in on. And at the end of the day, all of the questions that I'm going to be providing answers to have already been answered. All of the solutions to problems that I might develop and put out there for the world to devour have probably already been developed as well. But the fact of the matter is, and it hit me one day very clearly, there's only one me. There's only one Chris Ducker, and there's only one you. And when you build the business of you, nobody can copy it. It's 100% original. That's a tweetable, by the way, that little blue bird there. At Chris Ducker. I'll wait. Okay, that's good. I love reading your tweets, guys. Please do reach out on Twitter. But here's the thing. It's never been easier for us to build that business of you. It's never been easier, and the main reason why is because you stand out from the crowd. You have the ability to stand out from the crowd better than anyone else in your industry. And for us now as online entrepreneurs, we get the abundance and the ability of possibility when it comes to creating great content. Now, I've posted over 500 blog posts. I've had over 200 combined podcast episodes, plus a ton of interviews that I've done for other people's shows as well. And I found that there are three main pieces of content, three focuses when it comes to content creation and marketing that you need to really concentrate on when it comes to creating great content and, you know, taking that content and having it consumed and shared. And I'm going to share those three different types of content with you right now. First up is educational type of content. Content that is rich, that it's truly rich and in-depth enough to be able to take people from point A to point B and teach them how to actually do something. Secondly is inspirational type of content. This is a type of content that would genuinely get people thinking about what you and your business is all about, what your message is all about, and how that message can affect them in their lives. And lastly, good old-fashioned entertainment. We all need a little bit of a laugh. We all need to have fun every now and then, particularly in today's world. And here's some examples of what I'm talking about. When we talk about educational content, Andrew Warner from over at Mixergy.com has interviewed hundreds and hundreds of successful entrepreneurs via webcam for the Mixergy podcast and online TV show. He created an infographic which was extremely educational on how not to look ugly on a webcam. And with all those shows under his belt, obviously he's more than qualified to discuss this very important part of online business. The infographic did extremely well, has been shared thousands and thousands of times on social media, and obviously got the message out there for him and his business as well. Great educational content. I decided to go ahead and do likewise and created my own infographic on the subject of working with virtual assistants, which is a topic and an industry that I'm quite well known for online. And it also did equally very, very well indeed. Next up, I want to zoom in on that inspirational type of content. This is Nigel Marsh. He's a fellow Brit, please don't hold it against him. And Nigel presented at TED in Sydney back in 2010 on the subject of work-life balance. And it was a runaway success. And on the TED site alone, it's had over 2 million views, not to mention, obviously, the countless amounts of time that's been uploaded onto YouTube and viewed on there as well. At least probably 3 or 4 million combined views and shares on this video. And I want to play this video clip very quickly for you so you can see what I'm talking about when it comes to inspiring people. Here's Nigel.
So I stepped back from the workforce and I spent a year at home with my wife and 4 young children. But all I learned about work-life balance from that year was that I found it quite easy to balance work and life when I didn't have any work. My wife, who is somewhere in the audience today, called me up at the office and said, "Nigel, you need to pick our younger son up, Harry, from school." She had to be somewhere else with the other 3 children for that evening. So I left work an hour early that afternoon and picked Harry up at the school gates. We walked down to the local park, messed around on the swings, played some silly games. I then walked him up the hill to the local cafe and we shared a pizza for tea. Then walked down the hill to our home and I gave him his bath and put him in his Batman pyjamas. I then read him a chapter of Roald Dahl's James and the Giant Peach. I then put him to bed, tucked him in, gave him a kiss on his forehead and said, "Good night, mate," and walked out of his bedroom. As I was walking out of his bedroom, he said, "Dad?" I went, "Yes, mate." He went, "Dad, this has been the best day of my life. Ever."
Incredibly inspiring words from not only just a leader and an influencer and someone that has built a business around him and his personality, but more importantly, as a father. And as a father myself, I can completely relate with what Nigel was talking about, very much so. In fact, so I went ahead and actually shot my own video back in 2010. I'm not going to play it for you here, but I was here with my 1.5-year-old boy at the time, Charlie, who's now a lot more bigger and a lot more of a troublemaker as he was back then. But, you know, I talked in this video about why I wanted to become a virtual CEO, and ultimately it was to be more present and spend more time with my family. And that resonated with my audience because I also have a lot of fathers and husbands as part of my online tribe as well. Great inspirational content from Nigel there. Next up, I want to show you another quick video in regards to the entertaining side of of online content. And I'm going to show you a video from the guys over at College Humor who know their readership so well. They know their audience better than most online. And they created a video that not only became extremely popular with, you know, millions and millions and millions of views, but not only did it get consumed, but boy oh boy did it get shared.
Look at this Instagram, eggs Benedict side of ham. Started out as a lemon tart, then my phone went and made it art.
And these are my fingernails, the beauties and the details. Drinking my ties on a cruise, just a coincidence, it's also boobs.
Everyone look at my feet, get jealous that I'm at the beach. Probably knew I was going there. You saw my plane swing in the air.
Are you bored of city lights? Try seeing them in black and white. Putting glasses on a cat, I'm the first one to think of that. Oh, oh, oh. He thinks he's people.
Every time I take a photo of an old door, every sign out in front of an abandoned store, it's such a thrill to add a filter. Lo-fi, lo-fi. Every time a thing reminds me of a penis, every fortune cookie fortune that I've ever seen is on my feed. It's guaranteed with 5 likes, 5 likes. 5 likes. Look at this coffee foam. Now look at this pretentious tome. Now look at this garden gnome. I'm freaking Michelangelo.
Fireworks in the sky, a super close-up of my eye. Now a selfie looking cute in the same room where I poop.
It never ceases to crack me up, that video. And I mean, you know, why did it do so well? It did so well because the College Humor guys know their audience. They know exactly how to strike that funny bone. And obviously, almost all of their audience is already using Instagram, or at least know of Instagram. And that's the reason why that very, very entertaining piece of content, you know, struck such a chord with the audience and ended up getting, you know, shared literally all over the internet. You know, I had to follow suit. I'm not going to play this video. This is actually, I just had a haircut, so I don't look like this anymore. No, I shot this video for a speaking engagement that I was doing over in the United States to sort of promote the session within the private Facebook group and newsletter for the event. And it was great. And I had people coming up to me the entire conference talking about how entertaining it was and how funny it was. I did a Robert De Niro impression in it and all the rest of it, and it was ridiculous. If you want to see it, you can go to chrisducker.com/ridiculous and it will forward you to the YouTube video. Now, why do we do this? Well, we do all these things, we create all these pieces of content so that we can ultimately get people's attention. And here's the beautiful thing: once we've got their attention, and very clearly have their attention because of the way that we're educating them or inspiring them or just plain good old-fashioned entertaining them, once we get that focus and that attention, that's when the real fun begins. That's when we can start building relationships. And when I think about building relationships today, I think about one guy and one guy only: Bob. Bob the baker. Bob, actually this is not a guy called, his name could be Bob. I just got the image from the internet, who knows, but he's obviously a baker. He's got a little white apron and, you know, there's bread behind him. So he's obviously a baker of some sorts. But I use Bob as an analogy as an example of the type of people that we want to do business with. You know, this is P2P that I'm talking about here. People-to-people relationships. You've heard of B2B or business-to-business or B2C or business-to-consumer. And yeah, those still exist. But I believe that to build the business of you, that P2P or that people-to-people, that person-to-person connection is required above and beyond everything else out there. We are the type of people that are going to be very, very happy to walk an extra 2 or 3 blocks nowadays and buy our bread from Bob in his bakery at a higher price than we would do by buying it from the supermarket that we pass just a block from our house to get to Bob's bakery, because we know Bob. We have a relationship with Bob. He knows our name. When we walk through the door, he's got a nice smiling face and his little sausage fingers that he's wrapping up our favorite loaf of bread already before we even order it. He knows what we want. He knows what we're about. He knows what we need help with, and ultimately he serves us extremely well as the owner of his bakery shop. Unlike some people, and this is why I would love to be able to introduce you to Amy and her baking company in Arizona. This is the perfect example of P2P gone completely and utterly wrong. Amy and her husband were featured on Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares a couple of years ago, and it very quickly became the social media meltdown of the century, of all time. And I mean, it was a complete and utter nightmare for them. Once the show aired, everybody saw that they were horrible bosses. They were keeping the tips of the servers. They were serving up stale food to the customers. They weren't taking care of the cleanliness in regards to their kitchen and their restaurant. And ultimately, nowadays, people did what they do nowadays, and that is they get on the social media and trash the hell out of them. Now, did they put their hands up and say, yes, once we saw ourselves on TV, we realized we're horrible people and we shouldn't even be running this type of establishment? But don't worry, please fear not. We are in the process of putting in some new standing operating procedures to take care of all these things and turn things around for everyone involved. No, they did not say that. Instead, they went on the attack, and Amy kicked it all off first of all with a big caps lock rampage on Facebook saying, I'm Wonder Woman, and I'm a great chef, a great wife, and a great mum to my kids, and we will be parents to a human kid one day. What sort of kids do they have now? Obviously, they're talking about their pet dogs, I found out later. And we will show all of you, says Amy. Her husband, whose name I can't remember now because he's probably just a little bit too inconsequential, he obviously comes to the defense of his wife and says, to all you Yelpers and Reddits, which is quite amusing because he's saying this on Facebook, but there you go. Bring it on. Come to Arizona. You're weaker than my wife and weaker than me. Come to my business. Say it to my face, man to man. This is the part I like the best. My wife is a jewel in the desert. You are just trash, trying to bring us down. Pathetic. That's one word, yes. Laura decides to go ahead and comment, and she says, a jewel in the desert? That's reaching. Maybe a wet camel fart in the desert, and even then, that's reaching, and quite frankly, an insult to both camels and farts themselves. Not just the camels, the farts themselves on their own. Danny decides to get back involved with the conversation and says, I miss caps lock. Bring back Amy. Horrible, horrible P2P here. What is really amusing, however, is that the original post got 120 likes. Who likes that anyway to begin with? But then the camel fart joke got 415. So it just goes to show you what people think of these guys on Facebook. Really bad P2P. Let's have a look at some positive, some good P2P. Pat Flynn, good friend of mine and obviously a very, very popular online rock star. If you look at Pat's Twitter feed, you can see reply, 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 reply. This is what Gary Vaynerchuk would call jab, 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 right hook, except there's no right hook involved. This is just give, 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 give. And Pat is extremely well known for doing just this. He's built that business of you up perfectly. He tweets out, in a mini argument with my 4-year-old boy, I talk about my wife in my presentation. While rehearsing it, he says, her name is Mummy, not April. I know Pat's kids very well. Keone would definitely say that. There's no doubt about it. But Jason jumps on the back of that with a reply. Hey, Pat, did you get the gift I sent? I hope it got to you in the same condition I sent it with the weather. I wasn't sure. Pat replies, obviously, yes, I was going to batch thank everyone in the new year. Thanks very much. And when he says batch thank everyone, he means that he'll get more than one gift sent to him. And he does. I have actually been with Pat while he picks up his mail at a P.O. box in San Diego, and I can honestly say to you, it is not an envelope with a few postcards or thank you notes. It's a sack full of everything from boxes of cookies to embroidered framed images of his best-selling book, Let Go, and a whole load of other stuff that people send to him as well. It's just incredible. And it's those raving fans that come out of that really good P2P that Pat and so many other people online have been able to build up. And here's the thing. Once you go from knowing who you're creating that content for and creating that content and building those relationships up, once you get to that point, your audience will determine what the business of you actually becomes. Why? Because they're going to start opening up to you. They're going to start asking you questions that they need answers to. They're going to start sharing problems and issues that they're experiencing that they need solutions to. And that, my friends, leads you to money. And don't be selfish. This is, after all, the business of you, right? This isn't the freebie of you. Don't be the guy that just gives stuff away for free forever. You don't make any money that way. That's not a business. That's a hobby. And if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But I like to make money, and I'm not scared to say it out loud. In the middle of 2010, I put a blog post up on my blog discussing the 4-Hour Workweek book by Tim Ferriss and the subject of virtual assistants. And I want to point out this one paragraph here in a comment that I received on that post from a guy called Michael, who says, if only there was a source where you could get good quality virtual assistants to help you, just like the book says you can. I would even pay for it if I knew that it could be trusted. That's Michael, one of my audience members, sharing a problem that he's experiencing, an issue that he wants fixed. 4 weeks later, I launched virtualstarfinder.com, which is now turned into the #1 provider of dedicated, experienced general virtual assistants, where we help busy entrepreneurs find high-quality home-based virtual assistants here in the Philippines. And we've been running 4 years and helped over 2,500 entrepreneurs find their VAs. All I did was solve a problem for Michael and thousands of other entrepreneurs that are out there looking for good quality virtual workers. Another thing that I used to get quite a bit about from my audience was entrepreneurial loneliness, and I still hear from them very much so on this particular subject. It's a tough racket, this whole entrepreneurial push. And it's real hard for us to find like-minded people that we can actually interact with. I decided to go ahead and solve this problem by putting together my Tropical Think Tank annual event, which I run right here in the Philippines, which is where I live, on a beautiful paradise island called Cebu, where for 1 week, all of these entrepreneurs and top-quality world-class speakers come together to talk business, to discuss problems, and build and grow futures, both individually and as a collective group. All I did was answer the call of my audience and provide a solution to a problem. Michael Hyatt, I call him the leader of leaders online. He's a consummate professional and has done a phenomenal job of monetizing his brand once he built it up online. The delightful Amy Porterfield, who I call the queen of social media, she should be royalty. In my eyes, she really should. When I think Facebook, I think Amy Porterfield. She owns that niche in my mind, and she's done an incredible job at building a massively popular, very, very profitable business online, teaching people how to implement amazing Facebook marketing strategies. Another perfect example of someone who's monetized their brand extremely well is David Simon Garland from over at The Rise to the Top. He helps people, quite frankly, just create and sell products and programs online. And he does it extremely well with lots of character, lots of personality, and he's created a very, very profitable business for himself. And finally, Marie Forleo, obviously probably one of the most well-known online leaders when it comes to female entrepreneurship, and she's built a multi-million-dollar business online by simply just providing inspirational, educational, entertaining content on a very regular basis, and then going ahead and monetizing that brand. And here's the thing, you must do that. Don't be scared to start making money from your brand. Monetizing your brand builds authority, and you must be seen to sell. You must be seen to sell. So I want to recap real quick as I wrap up here on the business of you process. And it's not really even a process. It's not a system. It's not a strategy. It just is what it is. And once you do these things in the right order, the business of you becomes a reality. So first up, we've got to identify our niche. We've got to know what industry we're going to be focusing in on. And sometimes niching down within that industry can really help you not only gain a larger, more influential type of audience online, but ultimately make more money over the long period as well. Then you got to know who you're helping. So you got to really understand what your customer base is going to become and who you want your ideal avatar to be, that one person that you're going to be creating all of this great content for. And once you start creating that content and you already start answering those questions, you can start building up those P2P relationships, or those people-to-people relationships that will allow you to ultimately start monetizing your brand through the very simple idea of just providing solutions to the problems that people are having that they've reached out to you for help on. Now, I remember when I was about 8 or 9 years old, I was living in London, and my parents took me to a old steam engine exhibition in Waterloo Station. And I remember asking my father, Dad, how do they get these huge trains to move down the track? I mean, look at them, they're so heavy, they're so big. And he said, well, what they do is they pump some coal onto a fire, and they get that fire so hot so that it builds up lots of pressure in the engine, and then the driver will release the brake, and that pressure will make the engine move down the tracks. And I remember thinking to myself, that's really, really cool. But here's the beautiful thing. This is a perfect analogy to look at building the business of you, because once you start pumping that coal onto the fire, you will start moving down the tracks. Once you know who you're going to be helping, what niche you're going to be focusing in on, and you start creating that content, you do get to the point where those relationships start developing naturally. And then what do? You just carry on pumping more coal onto the fire until it's white hot, and then you really start to develop those P2P relationships. And those relationships can go up to a whole new level. But here's the thing. This is where the very large majority of people that are focusing in on building the business of you actually end up quitting, because there's a lot of work involved to get to this point. A lot of work involved. But I'm going to ask you right now today to not quit. Don't give up. Keep pushing. Don't let that lack of current ROI or return on investment phase you in any way. Yes, you might be tired. Yes, you might feel like you haven't got the return on that investment in time and money or effort or whatever. But don't give up, because 98% of your competitors are going to give up right now. And this is where you will actually start to monetize your brand, and you start building the business of you. And that's a beautiful thing, because people need your personality, they need your experience, and they need your stories, your support, and your inspiration. I want to thank you very much for spending a little bit of time with me today. And I hope you picked up a few ideas, and that I maybe educated you, inspired you, and possibly just entertained you a little bit throughout the course of the presentation. I would love to stay in touch with you. Please head over to chrisducker.com, pop on my mailing list, get all my lovely freebies, and definitely follow me on Twitter at Chris Ducker and send me any questions that you may have in regards to this presentation or anything else when it comes to creating a business around you and what you're all about and what you can provide the world and fellow entrepreneurs all around the world. Until next time, take good care, and I'll see you soon.
All right, so there you have it, Chris Ducker. So I hope you enjoyed the session, and just stay tuned with Life on Fire TV. We have all kinds of awesome content coming at you, and we'll look forward to catching up with you very soon. Cheers.
I'm here to help you set your life on fire.